Now, the time is to witness our first panel discussion, Future-Proofing Retail, Adapting to Consumer Behavior and Marketing Dynamics. For this, just give us some time to set the stage perfectly for our panelists, and allow me to call upon stage Ifat Jahan, Director, Metro Supermarket. Can we have some applause, please? Priyanka Gupta ma'am, Director of Brands, JKB Opticals. Let's put your hands together for Director Sri Leathers Limited, Rochita De ma'am. That's why I need something to put it on. Co-founder and whole-time director, Style Bazaar, Bazaar Style Retail Limited, Mr. Rohit Kedia. Director, Turtle Limited, Mr. Shritanshu Jhunjhunwala. Senior General Manager, Sales and Marketing, Shriram Ozone, Bailey Square, Mr. Shumit Sharma. Can we have some more applause, please, for all the panelists? They all are young entrepreneurs, the team of fresh youth. They all are here on stage. And as moderator, I like to call upon stage Dr. Hitesh Bhatt, Director, Marketing and Communications from Retailers Association of India. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon once again. So here we have with us a power-packed panel across, across the categories that we can, think of. So I would request all our panelists to just give a brief introduction about yourself, and then we can, start the deliberations.
Hi, is it audible? Yeah, hi, this is Sumit Sharma, Senior General Manager, Shriram Ozone Group, and I am going to talk about our properties, Shriram Group Ozone properties, and about what is in the latest development in retail in our group. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Hello. Is my mic working? It's working. You can hear me? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Rochita De. I'm the director of Sri Leathers Limited and the founder of House of SL. We are in footwear retail, and I'm very happy to be here today. Thank you.
Hi, everyone, and good afternoon. My name is Priyanka Gupta. I'm the director of GKB Opticals.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rohit Kedia, co-founder and whole-time director at Style Bazaar. I look forward to sharing meaningful ideas and knowledge with the industry stalwarts today. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Ifat Jahan from Metro Supermarket, and we are a growing retail chain in Odisha. So nice to be here.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shitanshu from Turtle, and I had the sales and marketing in Turtle.
Okay, so from real estate to eyewear to footwear to value retail to supermarket and men's fashion. I think we have got a fantastic mix of categories and leaders out here. My first question is, which normally I would like to ask anybody whom I meet is how's the business, how's the market. But from a panel perspective, I would like to ask what is the change that you are seeing, friends? How is the consumer? So the simple question is, how is the consumer? How are you looking at the consumer? What trends are you looking at currently in your business? And my request would be, you can talk about the current trends as we spoke about sometimes back in the last 3 months or 6 months, the trends as latest as 3 and 6 months. That would give a nice idea to the audience about what's going on in the business today. And then we are also going to talk about brand and strategy in the coming questions. But right now, a brief overview about the consumer trends that you are looking at in your category. We can start with anybody.
Me, for example, we don't focus much on trends. We do study it. I am in fashion footwear when it comes to House of SL. I do study what luxury brands are presenting at their fashion weeks, but that does not necessarily penetrate into the mass market, because I am catering not to innovators. I'm not catering to even early adopters. I'm catering to the early majority. So for me, it's very important to, yes, I will study the trends that is being presented, but after that, I have to do my own study about what is fitting the lifestyle of my consumers, and only then what fits into their logic and what I can present to them at their price-sensitive price point, only then I can present it. So me, I'm not the kind of retailer who needs to anticipate trends in advance, but I'm more traditional in the way that I wait for trends to reach its peak, and that's when I enter the market.
Wow. So defining trends is, can I say that?
Yes, I accept the compliment. Thank
Yeah,
you.
good. And everybody knows about Sri Leathers, right? Is she right or not? Absolutely. See, though, and one more thing which I would like to talk about here is, whenever the whole team comes here, we all go to Sri Leathers, and we come out with bags, both the hands full, with all the purchases that we made. So I will buy that, Rochita, and the brand that has been created. But I'll come back to you on the trends part, because ultimately we'll also hear our other panelists what they have to say and how their category is performing from a trends perspective. We can ask Priyanka.
So thank you so much, Hitesh, for the question. And so with GKB, we see a very dynamic shift as eyewear being a wearable technology which also focuses on fashion. It's a very exciting time. I understand that we all are facing challenges as far as retail is concerned, but we do see that in eyewear, and in terms of vision care, there is a lot of scope. Now, as GKB, we have seen that we cater to a very vast segment in the premium space. And that includes, most of our customers are above the age of 30, 38. And they're more mature, where they focus more on quality rather than quantity. And we are growing exponentially. One of the key areas that we are also diversifying into is the hearing aids industry. We have exclusively partnered with the brand Widex, where we are currently in 6 cities across India. And we are planning to grow this business model because we see that eyewear and sensory needs, vision and sensory needs, that's a better way to put it, are very, it is a very key sense for us as human beings. We need a vision, and we also need hearing aids, ear care. And we do see an exponential growth. The numbers, I will send it across. I don't know it as of yet at hand, but there is definitely a big growth we see in the hearing aids market. So as GKB, we are here to innovate in this field and ensure that customers get eyewear, vision care, and hearing aids under the same roofs, and with the GKB assured quality and service. So that is one of the biggest groundbreaking innovations we made in the last 6 months. Thank you.
Thanks, Priyanka. We'll come to that. I like the word she used, two words, exciting times. Okay, so let's see, second person who has spoken about something very positive. But we'll go to Rohit and ask him about what he sees currently in his business.
Thank you, Hitesh. Currently, value retail business is strongly driven by, say, change in current trend. What has happened, I'll just speak with not many years back, since the last 2 years, the mindset post-COVID has rapidly shifting from saving culture to spending culture, which is, fueled by deep social media penetration. Everyone's masses bhi aaj, they want to look like their celebrities and the influences they follow. And, with the government schemes that is coming in primarily in low tier 2, tier 3 cities with low cost EMI to no cost EMI, and so many schemes are being offered to mass. So what the mass need now is they are adopting to buying garments throughout the year. It's just not that festive centric. So our garments and our retail, value retail is thriving, and we are having a great momentum where, youth comes into our store, कि 2000 रुपये लेके आ जाते हैं, and they get a cargos, they get a t-shirt or shirt and a shoes. So trend is definitely shifting, and value retail driven by strong fast forward fashion, which combines with affordability and quality. I look forward to very exciting times in next 5 years. Yes, Hitesh.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So Rohit was also extremely positive the way he spoke about. And it's not about being positive, we have to be realistic in life. Like Kumar just asked, how many of you have got 10% plus growth? We were just talking about this quarter. And many of you have raised your hands, and nearby in and around that percentage, 7, 8, 9, 10 is the average. But let's go to Ifat, who is the founder of Metro Supermarket Director, and we'll ask her about what her views are and what she sees here in terms of the trends and the consumer behavior.
Thank you. So I think consumer behavior, if we talk about post-COVID, we are seeing a lot of change, and especially when we are catering to the daily needs when it comes to supermarket. So I think mainly because of the Gen Z shoppers and also because of the millennial households that are expanding in these tier 2, 3 cities. So somewhere the buying patterns are changing, and to adapt to that, every retailer, I feel that now to future-proof retail, the only key is to adapt. And to adapt to these things, we have to be very much data-centric, and also through a lot of innovations that are happening in the market today. As a lot of you might have heard about quick commerce, which is currently trying to expand into a lot of cities. So somewhere, when we cater to the daily needs, it becomes a responsibility to adapt to the changing behavior of the customer, and since the customer is getting everything so easily and also getting the advantage of the innovations that are happening, so it becomes kind of a responsibility, I would say.
Ishita, I'm going to come to you once I speak to Sudhanshu and Sumit. Sudhanshu, your views on this, please.
Yeah, so coming from men's fashion and 30-year-old young brand, I think brands are now getting fashionably late and consumers are not. I think the fashion trends in menswear thankfully doesn't change very rapidly. It's a little more follows Japan, Korea, Europe, then America, and then comes to India. So we get some time. But having said that, yes, the social media influences has closed that bridge very quickly. And we see now consumers adapting a more young, vibrant mindset, which gives the brand an opportunity to unlock, more dimensions of fashion within the portfolio. So that's a positive. I think on the consumer side, the trends which I have noticed shifting is that, consumers are getting very spoiled, very sort of lazy, because now you have so many things at your fingertips that, you don't really need to make an effort to even come out of the house. And as brands, as retail, it becomes very important then that how do you still stay top of mind, and how do you still inspire them and motivate them to come and experience, whether it's a collection or a season launch or a event, etc. Because I think more than wallet share, what Kumar was talking about, I think it's the mind share now. And there's just such a barrage of new brands, and every day a new brand comes up, and it's just too much. So I think, to give you a recent example, I wanted to buy a pair of denim at 8 p.m. for my son, and because next day school emergency. And I was trying to find all the quick commerce apps, and none of them were selling denims. And I was so disappointed that I have to now make that effort to go to the store and actually buy it at 8:30. And I think that is where the consumer is at, and the challenge is for us brands to actually now adopt technologies which support seamless shopping, and build tech stacks, not kind of rely on. I would not say that aggregators are bad, but if you rely on them too much, you don't get access to data, and that means you don't really have any insight on your consumer. And as brands, I think that is very important. So slowly but surely, you have to start building your own tech stacks. You have to start connecting directly with consumers. And at Turtle, I think that is something very important, something we are giving a lot of importance to, and we are building that and launching that and connecting most of our key stores directly on our own platform with the consumer.
Good. Did you notice one thing? Shitanshu was disappointed because at 8 p.m. he could not get a pair of denims. Okay, and he tried searching. So that's the insight that we have. He's one of the owners and directors of a big brand like Turtle, but he himself has, did take the pains to search. What does this mean? This means that today he has not got denim, but by next year he would definitely get a denim at 8 o'clock in the night, is what I perceive, or if not next year, next to next year. So at the most 2 years game, you will get all that, not all at 8 p.m., you may get it at 2 a.m. also in the morning. But this is where the actual consumer is coming. So who will come to the store? Because as Shitanshu said, young, vibrant mindset to hai, but they are getting spoiled. They are getting lazy. So ये spoiled, lazy बन रहे तो कैसे बन रहे? Because of the technology, quick commerce, so on and so forth. But what about the other side of the business, the vibrancy and stuff like that? So that we'll try to address here. Before that, I would like to ask Sumit about his two properties that are there in Dhanbad and Patna, and how does he see the market of Dhanbad and Patna? And if you can throw some light there, that would be nice, Sumit.
So just heard with all the panelists is like it's ultimately a customer who is in a driving seat, and we are into B2B business, and because we have come up with a mall in Patna and we have our existing mall in Dhanbad in the name Ozone Galleria. So we have faced a lot of problems from the customer, and like there are problems in keeping merchandising in the store, because we ourselves go to each store and see what is wrong and what is right in the store. So from there we get to know like the right combination of merchandising is very important for any store to run from a particular location. So it's not only you can open the store, but you have to have a right set of people, you have to have a right set of operation behind it to support your sales. So this is what, and in a mall we always follow to create a good brand mix inside the mall, so that customer knows where is their shops, and brands knows who is their target customer. So brand mix, zoning, this is very important for a mall, and we try to follow strictly these rules so that we can do justification to the brands and as well to the customers.
Good. Now let's come to Rochita once again, and taking her point of no trends. I mean anticipating no trends, and what she meant was I mean the brand is so strong that it's immune to these radical changes. But the question is about agility and agility in business, agility in operations. How do you manage this agility in terms of your product offerings, the kind of SKUs that you have, or how do you manage that customer experience and customer engagements, thus ensuring profitability, because all of these are many times low margin products.
Right. So I'll illustrate with an example that we carried forward during the pandemic. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So during the pandemic, very early on, before the lockdown was even announced, my father had decided that we're not going to lay off a single employee. But that does not mean that our job is just to pay their salaries. We wanted to creatively make strategic pivots so that we had work for everybody, regardless of whatever capacity we had to work in. So after the lockdown, when it was lifted, the company had been told that you can only operate at a 50% capacity. You cannot fill your stores with more than 50% of employees, which is what we did. So the rest 50%, we had to employ them in creative ways. So we had same day delivery service within a certain radius from the store, where at the time senior citizens were at high risk, so they couldn't come to our stores. So we offered them same day delivery, where we were taking our footwear to them, making sure their size fits in their house. Then another thing that we did was we had pop-up stores, which usually our store, we are so busy during the Durga Puja, we simply do not have the luxury to go outside the store, but still we hosted some apartment complexes we picked, and then we hosted some pop-up stores so people can shop from the comfort of their home outdoors. So it was also, again, keeping the safety protocol in mind. In terms of product also, we added a category. We were selling PPEs, sanitizers, the N97, or those masks also. But that had to be done in a very strategic way. We had to prioritize medical institutions because at the time there was a shortage. So even though we did use our excess supply chain to make these products, we had to make sure that we prioritize medical institutions and only then reach out to hotels, clubs, schools, etc. These are certain things that we did to maintain productivity, and I do have a lot of respect for other organizations who did the same thing just to make sure they protected the livelihood of their people. So being adaptable has been a key quality in my company, and a lot of companies where ambidexterity in organizations has been prioritized. There was an example that Professor Charles O'Reilly had spoken about, this container ship, which is like 100,000 tons big, and at top speed it's moving at 100 miles per hour. But when they have to make quick turns, they struggle because they are so heavy and so big. And he said that the large organizations are like these ships with numerous protocols, multiple overheads, and so many numerous locations. So I only have 50 stores. So in a way, we were fortunate enough to be able to be adaptable at the time and stay relevant regardless of whatever the external factors may have been. So being adaptable has been a boon in my regard.
Good. I think that's a classic example of agility in operations. I would like to ask Priyanka about, since the topic is about adapting to consumer behavior and market dynamics, you as a brand have diversified. Predominantly you are a eyewear brand. Now you are getting into the hearing segment as well. So I would look at this as a concentric diversification rather than a conglomerate diversification. But what made you gave the reasons what made you do that. But how do you think that the consumer will adopt, and how GKB brand will rub off on this initiative, or will it be a separate a brand altogether? Because right now GKB is at a premium segment, and when you talk about hearing, the range is also vast, but it won't dilute the brand equity that GKB has created.
That's a very good question, Hitesh. A lot of food for thought. So So firstly, this was a decision that we took because we understand that our customers are predominantly, I would say, of a mature target market. Of course, we have a lot of young customers and we do cater to fashion. GKB has been positioned as a luxury, as a fashion-centric retail where we do cater to a lot of interesting and fun brands, that we work with on a daily basis. And we do a lot of brand events. We just did an event with Montblanc in Bangalore and Mumbai, which was quite fruitful for us. However, as a industry, we see that there is a lot of different focus points. Of course, eyewear being fashion and function. And when it comes to the functional need, we see where customers are predominantly over the age of 40, where they are presbyopic and they need to go into a store for getting their eyes checked. We understand that majority of people are also going to be suffering from sensory sensory needs. Yes, they're going to be having a sensory inhibition post the age of 50, 55. That is when the onset starts. So as GKB being a premium and premium luxury brand, we are premium, but I would say we are luxury, but we are more commercial luxury. You know, there is also boutique. We have a few boutique stores in the country, but our main segment is, I would say, commercial luxury. So the brand Widex that we have partnered with, exclusively partnered with in India, it is a premium hearing aid solution that, of course, I will go into specifics later.
Sure.
But it's a premium hearing aid solution where we use teleaudiometry and we also use AI-enabled, the hearing device is AI-enabled to adjust to the sound frequencies. But Widex is also positioned in a premium price because we always keep our pricing very premium. So where GKB stands out here, more than just an eyewear retail store, we are a brand that is known for trust, that is known for service, and that is known for giving you the right quality. And hence, our customers who are of mature age, and it's a free hearing test of 5 minutes, they feel that comfort level to get that hearing test in the GKB store because it's a one-stop all that fits their needs, and there is an element of trust that if GKB is promoting Widex, that means Widex will be a premium. That is what our customers have also had a lot of positive results. So we don't go into the mass segment for any product. So whether it's even hearing aids, whether it's our clinics, whether it's our service, we always position ourselves in the top, and hence that is where our brand really stands out. Thank you.
Thanks, Priyanka. Rohit, from one store to IPO, the journey was full of challenges, blood, sweat, and tears. But yes, you are a brand to now a very big brand to reckon with in the segment. How was the journey? If you can succinctly tell our audience about this part of it, because this is a milestone which normally every company or brand would like to have, and you had it successfully. So please share the experience.
It's one momentous journey. I'm overwhelmed with pride and joy to state on 6th September, we were lucky, we've managed to, in fact, publicly list our company from our very first store in 2013 to our 200th store this year. We have not only kept up, but redefined fashion at an affordable price. We support the Indian growth story. Our company has led way in unlocking the retail potential of aspirational Bharat. And I would just like to thank every stakeholder in our company for their unwavering support throughout these times. You know, like My colleague just mentioned about COVID. Every company had a very difficult time, but we managed to hold on and make sure there is a right roadmap ahead. And yes, now 200 store is something we all are celebrating, and we look forward to further expansion in coming years.
Excellent. 200 stores. Big hand to Rohit. Good. Let's go to Shitanshu. Shitanshu, can you talk about the importance of ability and what are the radical changes that are happening in your segment? I want the answer from 2-3 perspectives. If you can give any one of them. One is either the marketing side of it, or an example from a technology side of it, because you did mention about the tech stack, you did mention about the consumer behavior. So what kind of strategies or actions that Turtle has taken which has helped you? Any such examples or any such insights that you would like to share with us?
So, I think traditionally men's fashion, we follow 2 seasons, and the planning starts a year ago. And I think this itself is now getting more and more challenging because trend shift and market shifts. Winter sometimes comes in early, sometimes decides to come late. So what do you do? So I think we are working a lot on the supply chain side to make it much more agile. Traditionally in our industry, the lead time, we take about 135, 140 days from fabric to production. But we are trying to now bring this down to at least about 90 days so that we can go closer to market in terms of committing merchandise, orders, etc. So that is one side. On the technology side, I mean, technology today, the sky is the limit. Everything is possible. There are so many good technology partners available. So as a brand, I think one has to have the imagination on what really would excite or be relevant for your consumer. So I actually shop a lot with my kids, and those experiences actually teach me. So I'd recently gone to a big box store, I think it was H&M in Calcutta, and we did some shopping, and then there was a 30-minute queue in the cash point, and neither did my son or me had to have the patience to wait for 30 minutes, and I was deciding to just walk out without shopping. But my son just took out the app, and there's some scanning barcode feature in the H&M app, so he actually added all those products to the cart, and we checked out by credit card, and we went home, and the product I think came the next day home. But it saved me that 30 minutes, and I actually got the retailer the sale. Yeah. Right, and this was something very difficult to imagine, a few years ago. Now, if whether Turtle should have this, I mean, it really depends on your size of store and the traffic you pull in. So as I said, technology is not really the challenge, and developing that. So I think in our team, we discuss a lot of use cases, and we actually talk to some consumers and ask them what they would like from the brand. And a lot of consumers say that your white shirt we wear very regularly, and we would just want to buy it without any effort. So we are trying to now bring technologies where it's very seamless for them they know their size, so just go and reorder, almost like a subscription business, right? So I think the consumers teach you, and as a brand, if you can partner and get the technology, they are ready to adopt. And as I think Umar asked, above 80 people year-olds are adopting. Our consumers are 30, 35, so that's not a challenge at all.
Good. Thanks, Shitanshu. Coming to Ifat, you are based predominantly, your operations are in Orissa, and you run supermarkets. But 2-3 questions which I want to ask. One is about the scale, operations part of it. Second is about, everybody talks about Q-commerce, and what is your view? How do you see Q-commerce in that part of the country or that market of the country? And you are now, you have decided to change the format from super to a hyper market. So these are 2-3 questions which, if you can throw some light on that.
So thankfully, I would say that since a lot of innovations are mainly happening in the tier 1 cities, so it's giving us some kind of an edge that we are seeing the result. We are seeing, okay, these are the things that are happening, and these are the, the way they are happening. So somehow in tier 2-3 cities, we are getting the edge of looking at that experiment that is happening, and then wisely we decide how to do that in our place. So when we talk about supermarkets, the way now daily needs and the essential items are available to the customers, the change has been very vast from the COVID phase. After COVID, the changes that happened so quickly, that from e-commerce first, I precisely remember that during the phase we only tried the e-commerce thing in our supermarkets when everything was closed down. We started the online market, and then it was going at a 90%, 90% of the revenue at that time was happening through online. And suddenly when everything started opening and things started getting back to the normal phase, again we were back to the brick and mortar, the phase only. But in the last 2 years, after a lot of new companies have started the quick commerce thing, I think everybody is trying to enter into it, be it the clothing stores, be it the cosmetic stores are also trying to go for the 6-minute, 10-minute delivery part. So somewhere we are observing everything and we are trying to implement it in our place also. Since we are a brick and mortar store, somehow it's easier for us because we don't have to set up a dark store anywhere out of the city. We can do that experiment from our place itself. So the changes that are happening in all the cities, it's actually a good thing that a lot of retailers can adapt to it, because now adapting is the only good thing you can do. If you are not adapting to the consumer behavior, because as he said that his child was the one who showed him how to do the quick checkout part. So somewhere the Gen Z is trying to influence the consumer pattern. So the only thing that we have to do in order to stay in the game is to change with the consumer behavior. And that is one of the reasons that Metto, which was only a supermarket store, is now trying to enter the hypermarket store in order to be highly profitable and as well as integrate with the online part. So that with the new competition that is happening at the quick commerce thing, we can adapt to it and we can excel with it.
So when you say hypermarket, it would be at a scale of, let's say, DMart or so?
Yeah, about it, yeah.
Oh, very nice. See, good opportunity for all of us here, Ifat. But the game is different out there, and you know that better than anybody in this room, because you are going to get into that business, or you may have already started. What is the main differentiator between between this current model of yours and the model that you are going to shift to? Because this is again a radical change. In Priyanka's case, it was concentric diversification. Here what you are going to do is you are not keeping your original supermarket model. Now you are shifting from a supermarket to a hypermarket. Exact reasons for that or the differentiation?
So over the past 10 years, we did a lot of experiments. We did try out the franchisee part, opening up smaller stores like 7-Eleven, you can say. But somehow the profitability and the scaling part is easier when you open up a larger store because the volume is different. So when you're able to get a good volume with minimal operations, somehow it gives you the kind of, the objectives is much more clear, I can say. So that is the sole reason. And also we study a lot of data. So when we see the data of the other competitors that are there in the market, we analyze that it is a good thing to go in a structured manner rather than just opening up number of stores. So more than the number here, the square feet matters the most.
Absolutely. So this is the learning for all of us, and many of you know this. The first part is the volume part that Ifat mentioned. Second is it's all about the per square foot throughput that comes in a big store like a hypermarket, and it's not a numbers game. So she has realized that I don't want to open stores left, right and center. I would like to have few stores, but they will be humongous ones, the DMart model type. Am I right, Ifat?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So this is a fantastic insight that people who think that okay, more stores means more profitability can be right, can be wrong, but here in this case, in this particular business, in this segment, in this category, Ifat's experiment over the last 10 years, as she mentioned, is that hypermarkets will be more profitable, and then data also plays a lot, and she will also have a lot of muscle to bargain, with the FMCG players and suppliers as well. Am I right, Rochita?
I would agree, even though I'm not in FMCG, like for me as well, volume sales is very important because we have very slim margins. So even when we do have dealership contracts, we have a minimum requirement of 6,000 square feet because we don't want to do small stores. If we don't hit volume sales, our dealers are not going to hit a profit. So I am in full agreement on that point.
Good. Since we are talking about square foot and per square feet, etc., let me come to my friend Sumit, who is handling these two malls. How do you see, now that you have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 potential partners, 5 में से Ifat is out अभी, तो एक drop out हो गया. Having said that, how do you see your upcoming Patna mall, and what kind of mix are you looking at, Sumit? Because that will also tell us about the kind of geography or kind of changes that Patna is going through. I had gone years back. I don't know how it looks like today, but what we see in television and the kind of numbers that are coming up, it's an upcoming city, like any other top ones.
Yes, you're right. Like many of the people doesn't know about what is the real trading density of Patna market. So Bihar, after Kolkata, Patna has got the highest TD in terms of sales per square feet in the market nowadays. So recently, City Center also has opened their mall in Patna, and which is doing awesome in Patna. So from there, we figure out why don't open a mall in Patna, which is going to become the biggest mall of Bihar.
Okay.
So it is 7.5 lakh square feet, wherein we are giving 4.5 lakh square feet is the pure retail area. So we are creating a lot of common spaces in our mall. Apart from that, everywhere in the world, this parking is a major concern inside a mall. So we have created 750 number of car park in our mall, which we can double because we have got the advantage of the height. So we can create almost 1,500 numbers of car park in a mall like Patna. So it is going to become a game changer for the economy of Bihar. There are a lot of brands, aspiring brands who want to open their first outlet in Bihar, but they were not getting right product at a right location. So we came up with our mall, Bailey Square in Patna, which is itself in a market area. The market name is Raja Bazaar, which is already established market zone where already there is a footfall of more than 5 lakh people are there in that particular zone. So we expect around 5 to 7% footfall from the local market, which is going to cater 25 to 30,000 footfalls into our mall. To support the brands which are already there, there are a lot of new brands which we are getting inside our mall. Brands like RBL brands, for example, we are getting Armani Exchange in our mall. We have Lifestyle is coming inside our mall. Starbucks, Ethos, Exclusive Lines. There are a lot of international brands which we are going to bring for the first time to the city of Patna. So this is how we have planned, and hopefully it is going to do wonders for the people of Patna.
Thanks. Thanks, Sumit. Rochita, I'll come to you on managing your operations, because it's a direct correlation to the change in consumer or the consumer needs and what to plan. How many SKUs you may be managing approximately?
5,000, 4,000.
5,000 plus SKUs in only footwear.
Yeah, footwear and accessories. We also have large and small accessories.
So what is the secret? How, if you can share something, from an adaptability perspective in today's current scenario?
It is a case study. Our flagship store, which is in Lindsay Street, it has more than 5,000 SKUs. It is the world's largest single brand footwear and accessories store, and it's approximately 42,000 square feet big. And most of my pujo during our festive season, which is primarily Durga Puja, it is we have 1 day inventory for like 60% of our inventory. So we have to replenish our 60% of our inventory every single day.
Wow.
And so it in itself is thank you.
Good.
It in itself is a case study. We have it's madness, but we've been so accustomed to it. Like we were talking about your footfalls, we expect like 70 to 75,000 people every weekend. And when I say pujo, I don't mean October.
In that store?
Yes,
Or
in that
the
no, that store, the
Oh.
one which you went to yesterday.
Okay, 70 odd thousand.
Yes.
वो तो मॉल के numbers भी कभी कभी यार majority नहीं होते, but you know, I'm just
Yes.
telling you,
Yes.
fantastic. Yeah. So sorry.
No, you can
Yeah.
we can have a conversation. So that store really beats all records. But having said that, we cannot recreate that. Like we have a store like 10 minutes away from that. We cannot recreate that same thing again. So that it is an exception. It's not the norm. But we try to recreate that everywhere we go. We try to have footwear malls. We don't want to do we don't want to do a store where it's just for one particular category or one particular gender. We try to host family stores. Like I was talking to you yesterday as well. Like we want to be an inclusive brand. We want to make sure when you come with a family, everybody has something to do. Everybody has something to purchase. We want to make sure we are catering to every single person. So operations differs from store to store. Having said that, it is a learning curve. We learn every day, even though this store is more than it's older than me, but I'm learning something every single year. Even though I've studied the history, I've grown up with it. It has so much to teach me every single year with the festive collection. Having said that, when I say festive, I don't mean October.
Okay.
I know Durga Puja is in October, and most brands start their campaign in September. But when most brands start their campaign, we have finished our campaign. We start our campaign in July. So when we first put our catalogs out, that's when the market sentiment is, okay, now Durga Puja has started, which is in July. So for me, we have beat a lot of market, I want to say like stereotypes. A lot of the things that we do in our stores is unheard of in retail. A lot of people to mitigate, to address the situation where there's an off season, they give discounts. We have no discounts. But if you come to Shriladhar's anytime throughout the year, you will not see an off season. That's because we make sure we offer the right value to our customers throughout the year. We stick to that offering throughout the year, and we consistently give that to our customers. So our customer is also confident that no matter which time of the year they come to our store, they will be paying the right value. We do not keep that excess margin to be able to give that percentage off. We also do not have, I'm also representing House of Vessel, we do not have any external financing, because we understand when we get into an external financing contract, we are going to add that additional percentage. We cannot transfer it to our customers. So we want to make sure our margin is as slim as possible. Another thing is, I'm sorry, but we also are not present in any malls. We have our own properties where we have our stores. We do not want to give that extra, that premium rent. Even when we sell online, we have our own digital platforms. We are not on any other e-commerce platforms, even though that will give us a mileage and maybe will help us boost our sales. That additional percentage we simply just don't have. So does that?
Any particular reason for not being on other platforms?
Yes, so they do expect that we give them like a 5% margin.
Okay.
And also we have to work on their terms where we don't have any autonomy on the delivery and the return. So it's a little bit more complicated when we would like to make sure we provide the same the quality of service online as well as offline to make sure we protect our brand identity there as well.
You are also of the same view, Priyanka?
Yes, absolutely. We are in malls, but of course, it is difficult to be in malls with the rising, rental that is eating up on our margins, and very similar to Shriladhar's, we also don't believe in external finances.
Okay.
So we internally finance everything in our company. It's
Good.
a completely,
Sure.
yeah.
So next question is to Rohit. Ifat and then Shitanshu about the challenges that you all have faced. Succinctly, if you can just tell us a couple of challenges that you faced, because challenges देखने से क्या होता है कि सबको पता चलता है okay these are the challenges even the successful guys are also facing, you know. And then we'll come to the final round of the question. We have got very short time, but I just want to know what were the key challenges you have faced and how have you overcome that? Or you can talk about it, you know, only the challenges part of it. That's also fine. What were the key challenges you have faced?
So now that with Style Bazaar we are in 9 states, so getting the right fashion pyramid mix is always a big challenge. You know, in which state, say, a core, a core or an entry price point would work, how much, and in which state, what capacity we have to take fashion and a core product. So making that architecture is always a challenge, you know, on which somehow our entire back-end team and operation team is working on it, getting the right mix of product where, you know, and making it more relevant to the festive calendar of each state is a big challenge, you know. For in pujas like in Bengal, the entire pyramids is focused towards more fashion-centric products, and like in rest of the year, we thrive mostly on core and entry price points. So getting the right mix in every state is a challenge, and we are trying our best to overcome and be more ready towards our consumers. So this is one challenge all value retail always face. And then, of course, getting the right width and right depth is a big challenge in how much quantity should we go for a core product and how much quantity should we go for a fashion product. So getting all that matrix right is always a process that goes on in the company. And the more it's in the favor of us, the more the numbers are great. So this is one challenge we face.
Thanks, Rohit. Shitanshu, since you mentioned about fashion, what is your view on this part of the challenge?
So I think if you love retail, you know, I wouldn't put challenges out there, I would put stories.
Okay, good.
And I think one of the key challenges is that, you know, how do you unlearn having such a long history? I think most of the panelists here are from many decades of business. And a simple thing, you know, just to even change a display of a store, it's so difficult to you know, align and to actually take the leap of faith and then hope the consumer responds. And I think recently we tried one. We just redid our store at Avni Mall. It's a flagship 1,000+ square feet store. And we redid the whole, you know, the way we display.
Yeah.
And we were getting great results. So I think, you know, I would just say the challenge is just kind of getting over yourself.
So this is a classic, he mentioned, Shitanshu spoke about, I know challenges but stories, and this is a classic story. You change the decor, the look and feel, the interiors, and suddenly the same old, you know, in couples also, thoda change ho gaya to naya, but wo naya hota nahi hai. Having said that, here is a classic example where he got a lot of footfalls and the acceptance from the consumer. And I feel that's where the freshness comes in, and retail and the science of retail teaches us a lot about it from a visual merchandising perspective and things like that. But this, the identity part, the way it was, the brand was perceived, and when they did the change, now it is being perceived in a very positive way is what the story tells us about. Ifat, what were your challenges, if you can share with us?
So in FMCG industry, there's just one challenge that the MRP is printed. So you all have to do is you have to bleed the margins in order to boost sales. So just like they said that during the festive seasons, in order to boost sales, we do bleed a lot of margin. But now, since I said that a lot of upcoming supermarkets, upcoming, you know, quick commerce segments are there. So now all throughout the year, we have to give a lot of discounts in order to attract the customers that, okay, here also you get the same kind of pricing that you see on the e-commerce platforms. So that I would say is common for all the players in the FMCG segment.
Good. Now we'll come to the final point, which is what we were supposed to discuss. That is future-proofing retail. Okay, now we saw adopting to consumer behavior and market dynamics. We have seen and heard all our panelists talking about it. Time's almost up, but in 2, 3, or 4 words, if you can tell us how are you going to future-proof retail? So something, before we go to our panelist, Sumit, if you would like to talk from your perspective, from a real estate perspective, how will you future-proof retail in your business or category?
I think e-commerce is very important nowadays. Everybody is adopting to this culture of fast and quick e-commerce. So that is one change which every retailer, every brand, every company have to adopt this technology to remain in the competition and dominate their market presence to be in the market.
आप रियल एस्टेट वाले और आप ई कॉमर्स क्यू कॉमर्स प्रमोट
No, we are into a diversified business. We are into also in hospitality. So in Kolkata, we have got 3 benchmark properties. One is Westin Kolkata. We have Taj Vivanta under our kitty and Fairfield Marriott as well.
Very good. Thanks, Sumit. Your key, how are you going to future-proof retail?
For me, I think if staying true to my core value, I can still, experiment with technology and build my back end, provided I can still offer that value to my customer, price with respect to quality. That's the kind of implementations I'm going to incorporate in my business.
Good. Priyanka.
Yeah, very, very similar actually. Very similar thought process. But same, operational efficiency is a key, especially for us legacy businesses. It's a challenge because we've been in the market for so many years. So being able to create a company-wide change within the organization to adapt operationally to the current times, I think is the biggest prospect for us that we need to work on. And second is innovation. Innovation in products, innovation in service. Looking at things differently is another key.
Thanks. Rohit.
I think embracing technology is the way forward. In that way, it can help you retain your old customers as well as acquire new customers. And staying true to and staying core to your DNA, not trying to be very flashy or becoming someone else or any national brands. We want to stick to the bottom of the pyramid, maintain the price points which our customers expect when they come to our showrooms. Is like just staying core to your DNA is the way forward.
Thanks. Ifat.
So I think innovating and having the high tech with the high human touch is very important in order to have the consumer base intact.
Good, Chitanshu.
I think for me the question is not future-proofing retail, but future-proofing any brand. And brand is an energy, and brands have to tell stories. So as long as you tell the relevant stories, you will be relevant in the market.
Excellent. I like this. Relevant stories. If you keep telling relevant stories, you will be relevant. But I think we have got a good answer to this, and I am sure that the answer lies in what our esteemed panelist spoke about. Future-proofing retail, adapting to consumer behavior and the market dynamics. So the summary of this is in these few words that e-commerce is very important. Quick commerce is the future and present also. Stick to your core values or core to DNA is what 2 of our panelists spoke about. So whatever your core is, and even Priyanka and Rochita spoke about, that we will be sticking to our core values and DNA is where our whole success lies about. And what our other friend told, I don't want to be swayed away by what a multinational brand does or what others do, but I am going to be core to my value, build my technology or embrace my technology. I am going to get my operational efficiencies. How am I going to manage change internally, externally, across? Change is dynamic and everything changes the only constant, but this change is about the retail scenario, internal changes across your organization and how you keep managing that change. Innovation, people spoke about product innovation and service innovation as well. They also spoke about maintaining price points. 3-4 of them are very, very particular about price points, and I think that is the core to their success. Pricing as a strategy, product as a strategy is their core. Relevant stories, and the last but not the least is high tech with human touch is what Ifat said, and I think everything will be technology, but till the time retail mein human touch and experience nahi aayega, it's not going to be retail anymore. It's not going to be exciting. However, and how much technology you use, ultimately it's human experience, touch, feel and emotions that are going to play and be a part of your brand to make it future proof. With this, thank you very much for sharing all your insights today. I hope, and if anybody wants to ask one question, we can take, we can ask one question. Please take the mic to the gentleman, and this will be the only question before we wind up today's session.
Hi, good evening. It's not a question, but a compliment to Rochita and team. So, a couple of days back, I went to the Lindsay Street store, and it was, what I saw was something different, out of the world. So the kind of consumers there were inside the store was great, wherein all the retailers are now struggling to get in walk-ins. The store had humongous crowd, and the team was working so diligently to make all the sales happen. So heartiest congratulations to you and your team. I just want a small feedback of how are you bringing in walk-ins, and what's the mantra which you guys are following for that store, for other stores as well?
I also have the same question.
I wish there was a secret. It's very simple. We just maintain a very transparent business idea where we are not doing any brand building. When you even see any of our communications, we are not bringing any celebrity brand ambassador and saying, oh, please buy our shoes. And then in real life, because social media is so accessible to us, we know what they're actually wearing in real lives. Whatever you see is what you get. So everything that we are doing to brand build is from our real customers. They talk about their experiences. Throughout the year, when we do even our catalogs, it's about the price, the product, and the code. That's it. We try to make our customers' lives as easy as possible, and we try to keep it as authentic as possible. Thank you so much. I'm so humbled by your compliment today. I really hope that we could provide you with excellent service.
Absolutely.
And in the future as well.
You won't believe, that day I went with my sister to give her a gift, a handbag, and my budget was something around 2,000 to 3,000. I ended up shopping worth rupees 15,000, and that for multiple of my family members.
Thank you
so
also.
it was great, and thank you for bringing this to retail fraternity in Kolkata. Thank you.
Thank you for your patronage. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so friends, I also wanted to talk to you about one of our events. That's the flagship event that's coming up in February. It's the Retail Leadership Summit. It's going to be on 27th and 28th of February in Bombay at the Bombay Exhibition Center. First time in 20 years, RAI is going to do this kind of event, because RAI just completed, your association just completed 20 years in September. If you look at the card which you have got, the delegate badge, if you turn it behind, we have written the details about it. It's going to be on 27-28 February. It's going to be 1 lakh square feet extravaganza. We are going to have 5,000 delegates, 2,000 brands, 350 speakers, 250 partners, 100 plus media, and 10 country delegates are going to participate in this. It's going to be the biggest summit for retail in India, and I would, taking this platform, I am requesting and inviting all of you to be a part of this and celebrate 20 years of RAI and also RLS. Retail Leadership Summit also is going to complete 20 years next year, and we are going to have delegates and speakers across the country. So from all the categories you will find people, and you will find people with technology, real estate, retail, D2C, online, offline, and also people from abroad. So please, all of you are welcome to attend Retail Leadership Summit 2025. Thank you.